you didn't just end one life, you effectively ended 5 lives, including your own.
The judge sentenced XXXTentacion's murders to life in prison, but Robert Allen, one of them, was released after just 5 years. The internet is going crazy over X's mother, Cleopatra, confronting him in public. How is the murderer of her son already at large? And what was it that Cleopatra said that stunned everyone? Now let's get started. A poor choice and 50 bans. Okay, so late March 2026, your timeline as a whole is going nuts. From XXL to The Source to hot new hip-hop, every blog, page, and outlet is telling the same tale. One of the murderers of XXXTentacion was recently released from prison. In what seems like hours, Daily Loud releases a reel that receives 6.9 million views. The comment section is a battlefield. The fans are hot. People are calling for a variety of things that, if I repeated them, would demonetize this video. This is the crazy part. Nearly all of that indignation was predicated on false information, or at the absolute least, heavily repeated material that no one thought to verify before acting upon. Because Jose Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy's robbery and murder did not result in the release of Robert Allen IV, the fourth body on the indictment, in March 2026. Not even near. Since October 26, 2023, this man has been living freely. He has been living a normal life, doing a normal job, and traveling the world like any other civilian for more than 2 full years. And nobody on the internet caught it. The paperwork was not withdrawn. Before someone ran the records, nobody did. And once again, old news turned into breaking news. However, we must go all the way back if you truly want to comprehend how we got here, how one of the individuals involved in the murder of one of the most famous young artists in history wound up back on the streets so quickly. Returning to Deerfield Beach, Florida, let's go back to a Louis Vuitton bag filled with 50 racks. Let's go back to the worst choice 4 guys have ever made in daylight. June 18th, 2018, South Florida on a Monday afternoon, the kind of day when the sun is shining down like it has a personal grudge against everyone outside, and the air feels thick enough to chew. Jose Onfroy, also known as XXXTentacion, was 20 years old. He had taken out $50,000 in cash from a Bank of America earlier that day. 500 clean $100 bills were crammed into a black Louis Vuitton purse, 50 bands sitting in a shoulder bag. As if they were workout attire, he would never carry that luggage again. Leonard Kerr, his step-uncle, was with him. They arrived at Riva Motorsports together in X's black BMW i8. Now, if you haven't seen an i8 in person, just be aware that it doesn't fit in. Blacked-out butterfly doors that resemble something Tony Stark would whip. Once you see anything, it sticks in your memory forever, and someone did recall it. Someone who ought not to have. Months prior, Dedrick Williams had clocked that same BMW i8 at a probation office. Williams and 3 other men, Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen, were driving a rented 2017 Dodge Journey on this specific afternoon. Armed and searching for targets, these 4 had set out that day with the specific goal of striking licks. They weren't looking for X in particular. They were looking for anyone. However, anybody became a $50,000 come-up when Williams noticed an i8 parked in the Riva Motorsports lot. The Journey was wheeled into the lot by Williams. To verify that the whip belonged to X, he retrieved an Instagram picture. Then, he and Allen got out and entered the showroom, passing XXXTentacion, who was inside looking at bikes with his uncle. He had no idea that 2 of the guys who would help take his life had just walked by him like customers.
Because his mom just asked me to accompany him somewhere at the time.
On the stand, X's step-uncle Leonard Kerr is describing how he got into the car that day. He was only there because his nephew's mother requested him to accompany her, simply keeping X company as he went to check out some bikes.
It was like beside, behind, just looking around at the bike as well. All the bikes inside.
X was having a great time. He was just a young man with cash in his bag, looking at motorcycles, chatting with the salespeople, and going about his everyday business on a typical afternoon. Williams, meantime, purchased 2 black ski masks from within the store, while sporting a loud-ass bright orange pair of sandals and a white tank top. Riva's security cameras captured everything. After that, he and Allen returned to the truck, where the actual discussion took place. According to Allen's later testimony, he attempted to immediately kill the entire idea. Williams wasn't listening to him when he said, "I don't think it is a good idea. I just went in there, and I am on camera." They parked the Journey across from the north exit and sat down after he essentially asked, "Y'all scared?" Boatwright clinched the deal by saying, "All right, we're gonna get him." I stood there for 10 or 30 minutes, watching and waiting for X to come outside. The kind of patience that only comes from those who have already decided what they want to undertake. When X eventually emerged, got into his BMW with Kerr and shotgun, and began to drive toward the exit, Williams flung the journey directly in front of him, fully encasing him. There is no escape. On the witness stand, Kerr is recounting this encounter. In real time, when they reach the exit, they halt, turn right, and by the time Kerr turns left, everything has already altered.
By the time you look to the left, I see a car just coming down block the entrance, pulled by the entrance.
Now wearing masks, Boatwright and Newsom leaped out and hurried to the driver's side with the blickies. Boatwright carried a gun with a short barrel. A .22 semi-auto was attached to Newsom.
All I wanted was like this. You don't come out the effing car. And he was like with a gun.
The passenger seat is occupied by Kerr, a pole in his face. Newsom is searching X's pockets while pulling at his chain from the driver's side. What is this? For?
Deacon, give me the chain. Where's the chain? Give me the chain.
Yelled X. 20-year-old bro is stuck in his own whip with two guys wearing masks tugging at his neck and bag, and he's asking a question that none of them will ever be able to respond to. Kerr pressed the button and asked, "What is this? For?" He made a reservation as the butterfly door opened. Until he heard it, he sprinted without turning around.
Each time I don't know, but I heard something like exploding.
An explosion?
Yeah.
The lick was finished. The bag has vanished. Boatwright took a step back, met X's eyes, and squeezed, even though there was no cause to shoot. 2 rounds clipped X's left lung, grazed his aorta, and struck him in the neck at a downward angle. He was hurried to Broward Health North. At 4:51 p.m., he was declared dead. 20 years of age. The results of toxicology were clear. No booze, no drugs. He was simply going about his life, and he had vanished. The 4 of them returned to Boatwright's crib that same evening, splitting the bread and flashing it for the gram. Williams actually recorded a video of himself tossing the money into the air while dancing on a bed. They split it up such that Boatwright, Newsom, and Williams each had 15 racks. Allen then admitted to the court that he wasn't actually involved in the actual heist, which is why he received $5,000. $5,000. That was the value of Allen's role in the murder of one of the most well-known hip-hop artists. Blood money worth a used Honda Civic, and he would lose everything as a result. Or, depending on who you ask, nearly everything. The punishment, the smirk, and the snitch. The entire operation fell apart quickly. Just 2 days after the murder, on June 20th, Dedrick Williams was knocked out first. The same orange sandals were still on Bro Riva's face, tattoos, and entire outburst were captured on camera by surveillance from within. The journey's path through Deerfield Beach was tracked by cell phone pings. DNA was recovered from the masks. By the end of the summer, all 4 of them were languishing in Broward County Jail, facing accusations of first-degree murder, and people were talking about who would break first. The response arrived quickly. On July 26, 2018, Robert Allen was taken up from his sister's location in Dodge County, Georgia. Additionally, Allen was in the back room with investigators telling them everything, while Boatwright was mugging for the cameras and Williams was being aggressive. He revealed identities, specifics, the play-by-play, and everything else in a matter of hours. On the witness stand, he subsequently acknowledged that some of his first remarks weren't entirely accurate. At first, he made an effort to minimize his own part, but the essence of his remarks remained the same. Robert Allen knew exactly what he was doing right away. It was going to be he who returned home. On August 12, 2022, Allen entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder and armed robbery after spending almost 4 years in pre-trial incarceration, merely marinating in a cell. The first-degree accusation was dropped. He consented to take the stand and reveal everything in exchange, and he accomplished just that in February of 2023. Over the course of 4 days of testimony, every aspect of the lick was examined, from the time Williams saw the I-8 until Boatwright determined that 50 bands was insufficient and began squeezing. On the cross, defense lawyers attacked his neck. They depicted him as dishonest, said that in order to avoid a life bid, he was making up the entire narrative. The problem with Allen's evidence is that it was supported by the surveillance film, mobile phone data, DNA on the masks, and pictures of these guys actually posing with the pilfered money. The jury returned their decision on March 20th, 2023. Guilty. Everybody counts. Williams, Newsom, and Boatwright prepared meals. At that point, Michael Boatwright demonstrated to the world that he had no regrets at all. Boatwright turned to the U. Cameras grinned and blew a kiss as the judgments were read out while Cleopatra Bernard, XXXTentacion's mother, sat in the courtroom, very serious. After being found guilty of first-degree murder, this man responded by blowing the victim's mother a kiss like he was at prom. The arrogance was unbelievable, and it didn't seem to be an isolated incident. Later, Cleopatra told TMZ that Boatwright had been trolling her from the defendant's table for weeks while blowing kisses at her during the trial. Then came April 6, 2023, the day of sentencing. Judge Michael Usen spoke to each of them separately, and the words he used were extremely surgical.
Mr. Williams, you are the perfect example of why we have a law of principles in this state.
The judge made it quite clear. None of it takes place without Williams. He noticed the vehicle. The masks were purchased by him. He obstructed the way out. The architect was him.
You should understand that while you were dancing on that bed, throwing down those bills, you weren't throwing money down on the floor.
Additionally, the judge struck Williams with the bar of the century, a lesson that ought to be taught in courtrooms for all time.
You should think of that as you tossing down days, weeks, and months of your life just like that. Like so many pieces of paper.
Every bill Williams flung in the video and every 100 he flipped in the air during the festivities represented a day in his life that he would never get back. He was actually informed by the judge that he was dancing on his own grave.
Mr. Boatwright, you turned a robbery into a murder. And on that day, when you stood there and fired that weapon,
Then he looked across at Boatwright. After pausing to let it sit, the judge completed it.
you didn't just end one life. You effectively ended 5 lives, including your own.
5 lives, XXXTentacion, himself and the 3 friends he dragged to a life bid, all because he felt that 50 bands was insufficient. He too had to take a life, a wall-mounted steel slab.
That's your bed. And next to it is a stainless steel sink and a stainless steel toilet. That's the furniture that you have in that cell.
Now that's the crib. Concrete, fluorescent lights, and a toilet 2 feet from your bed each night until they carry you out. No drip, no whip, no flex. Boatwright was given 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of release.
You'll spend every hour and every day and every week and every year of your life in that cell.
With an additional 30 years added on top. Both Williams and Newsom were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. Completed, wrapped, none of them are being saved by an appeal, and Cleopatra had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. She immediately went to Instagram and said, "God is good," above the articles about the sentencing. She went all out in a TMZ interview after wearing a t-shirt with Joss's face on it and writing, "I made sure you were present in the room." In relation to the courtroom kisses, she described Boatwright as the most disrespectful bar a bereaved mother has ever lowered and expressed her hope that he will now receive the kiss he so desperately wants while incarcerated. She also gave Williams and Newsom some advice that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. She hoped they would keep a tight grip on the slippery soap. That's a woman who gave the most icy news conference in criminal sentencing history, buried her 20-year-old son, and waited 5 years for justice. However, on May 17, 2023, 5 weeks later, a completely different sentence was imposed. Robert Allen, the rat, the spy, the person who revealed everything, he waited to hear the open market value of working with the authorities in front of that same judge.
I genuinely believe that you are sorry for what you have done and not merely sorry for yourself.
Judge Usen is addressing Allen directly in that statement. The number, 7 years, came next.
So on counts 1 and 2, this court will find you guilty, adjudicate you guilty, sentence you to 7 years in Florida State Prison.
This man, convicted of second-degree murder in the death of one of hip-hop's most cherished young artists, was set to return to the streets before the next album cycle, with credit for nearly 5 years already. Served while incarcerated in Broward County Jail awaiting trial and 20 years of probation. A free man. Ghostly existence. October 26, 2023. Robert Allen Thorpe left a prison in Florida. No blog posts, no TMZ cameras, no hype, nothing. He just disappeared into civilian life, slipped out the back door of the legal system, and went unnoticed by anyone on the internet for more than 2 years. Not a cap. Until some court documents began circulating in 2026, no one was aware of it. And the news, which was technically outdated, drove everyone insane. In all honesty, the manner this man has been moving since leaving is almost astounding in how undetectable it is. Allen has a CDL, commercial driver's license, and works as a truck driver. Judge Usan authorized him to travel around the United States for business in September 2025, provided that he calls in once a week while out of state and visits probation in person every 6 weeks. The court acknowledged that gang members had targeted him for execution for cooperating, thus his home address was completely removed from all public records.
It says change reopen status 10/26/2023. But I know how he's making money. I done picked it all up.
That's a YouTuber looking into Allen's probationary records. The identical documents that caused a stir on the internet in March 2026 and led everyone to believe that this was new information.
So y'all can get mad at him and all that crap for being a part of it. He didn't pull the trigger.
The statement, "he didn't pull the trigger," is what has divided XXXTentacion's whole fan base. In every comment, section, group chat, and barbershop throughout the nation, it is the bar that initiates every disagreement on this case. Since leaving, Allen has made no public remarks, interviews, posts on social media, or appearances in the media. Nothing. On Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, podcasts, or anything else. The final words anyone has heard from this man are those he uttered in court, looking XXXTentacion's family in the eye and essentially saying, "If I have to die in prison, so be it. Please forgive me." The culture is unable to agree on whether this apology was sincere or merely a ploy to get a lighter sentence. According to one account, Allen was a complete participant who entered the store, verified the objective, and took 5 racks from the money of a deceased man. The other side claims that without his evidence, the 3 men who actually carried out the shooting and the heist might not have survived. They also claim that he never got out of the truck during the actual robbery, never held a gun during the ambush, and never shot anyone.
That was insane. Obviously, they had everything to do with it. These guys planned this.
And see, you're right to be frustrated. This man was in the vehicle. He was present. He was compensated. And now, while the other 3 will never again set foot in a Walmart parking lot, he is out here transporting goods across America. However, you then hear the opposing viewpoint.
I still think this guy should have been behind bars for at least 10 to 15 years, maybe even 20 years.
The seed, practical side, the legal side, the side that doesn't give a damn about how you feel and only cares about convictions.
His aunt, DeAndre Ellis, said on behalf of the family that they are satisfied with the outcome. I say we are content as far as what the judge threw out for the sentencing.
Standing in that courtroom, X's own family nodded and expressed satisfaction with the verdict. Furthermore, Cleopatra Bernard, the same person who told the other 2 about the soap opera and called Boatwright out of his name on TMZ, has made no mention of Robert Allen. Not a single word. She remained silent on Allen's May 2023 sentencing, according to reports from the time, while her Instagram continued to focus on honoring her son. A lady who has never bitten her tongue about anything in her life will not publish, interview, or remark. More than anything she could have uttered, that quiet speaks for itself. This is when things become pretty complicated. The man who actually pulled the trigger is still talking nonsensically from behind the wall, while Allen is out here living a tranquil life as a ghost on some 18-wheeler somewhere in Middle America. Boatwright managed to post on Instagram from Martin Correctional Institution in October 2024, revealing that he wasn't the villain that everyone believed him to be. Then he said something that made everyone on the internet sick to their stomachs. The man claimed he had no regrets about anything he had done. Let that rest for a moment. "It's still free me." Allen, the free guy, has remained silent. Boatwright, the guy who will never be free, is unable to stop talking. In court, Allen sobbed. Boatwright blew kisses. Allen expressed regret. That disparity alone reveals more about these 2 individuals than any testimony given in court. Boatwright stated that he is not sorry for nothing. There is a young child in South Florida who has just entered the 1st grade as all of this is going on. The blogs are recycling old stories, the comment sections are still furious, and the debate rages on about unfairness, snitching, and what is and isn't fair. 7 months after his father's murder, on January 26, 2019, Gekeume was born. After a private custody issue was resolved in 2020, his mother, Genesis Sanchez, and grandmother, Cleopatra Bernard, agreed to a cooperative arrangement to raise him. In August 2025, he began 1st grade. Everyone who has seen current photos of him thinks the same thing. The boy looks exactly like his father. Additionally, in 2025, Brandon Sloan, a content developer, happened to run across Gekeume at a Target and inquired about his father. Gekeume, who was 6 years old at the time, said, "I love him. My dad went to a hospital. He didn't never make it. That's it." A 6-year-old's complete comprehension of the worst day of his family's existence condensed into a single remark that has a greater impact than any verdict, headline, or tirade in the comment section. In an interview, his grandmother, who manages a $50 million inheritance, releases posthumous records, battles producer lawsuits, and establishes a whole foundation in her son's honor, discussed the grandson that XXXTentacion was never able to meet.
Can you just talk us a little about little Gecko?
He's sweet. He's gorgeous.
Cleopatra is that, not the Cleopatra who discussed slippery soap on TMZ with 3 convicted murderers. Just a grandmother discussing her grandchild. The side of her that doesn't generate clicks on the blogs is soft and genuine. X made it clear to his mother on several occasions that he would not live to be 21. At age 20, he passed away. His seed is already 6 years old. Growing up in a world where his father's shooter posts from prison with no remorse, his father's accomplice drives trucks across America under a sealed address, and his father's catalog continues to chart on streaming services over 5 years after his death. Robert Allen is unrestricted. His probationary period ends in 2043. He is not allowed to communicate with XXXTentacion's family. His address is protected by sealed court records. He has no social media presence. He is essentially a ghost, floating on the periphery of a narrative that society won't allow to end. The answer to the question of whether he should have been allowed to walk rests largely on your interpretation of what justice should entail. Is it a matter of punishment, about ensuring that everyone who was involved in the play experiences the same level of suffering? Or is it about gathering the information necessary to permanently banish the worst ones, even if it means letting the smallest fish swim? For the young child in the Target store who simply wants to know why his father never returned from the hospital, neither the street code nor the courts provide a satisfactory response. In this entire case, that is the sole decision that cannot be challenged. I appreciate you watching. If you like this video, you can view more similar material by clicking on one of the boxes that are currently playing on your screen.